X-raying. 3,000-year-old human remains in China. Archaeologists were stunned by this discovery. Hello, and welcome back to the Ancient History Channel. Dear viewers, archaeology has always been a field full of surprises and mystery, opening a gateway to untold stories from the past. From secret human remains that conceal harsh and unsettling truths, to priceless artifacts, to ancient tombs hiding earth-shattering secrets, archaeological discoveries do more than illuminate history. They ignite our curiosity. Beneath an old tree, a familiar field, or a seemingly peaceful stretch of land may lie the traces of people who lived hundreds or even thousands of years ago. Archaeology is the key that unlocks this door through time, a place where the past does not rest quietly in books, but emerges through bones, artifacts, and mysteries that send a chill of curiosity down our spines. Imagine this. As archaeologists dig deep into the ground, they suddenly come upon an intact set of human remains, or an ancient tomb carefully buried beneath the roots of a centuries-old tree. Why did ancient people choose that place? Who were they? How did they live their lives, and what led them to be buried in such unusual ways? Each discovery is not just a piece of history, it is an unresolved story, waiting for us to listen. Today, thanks to modern technology, humans can reconstruct the appearance of massive creatures that once dominated the Earth millions of years ago, or trace the remnants of civilizations that have vanished without a trace. Yet the more we uncover, the more we realize that history still holds countless secrets lying dormant. Some truths force us to question what we think we know, while others completely reshape what we once believed to be true. Why is that? What unexpected revelations might discoveries we have never known about still bring to light? And how many historical mysteries remain beyond our ability to decipher? Join us as we explore these fascinating archaeological discoveries and imagine the stories that each ancient site may tell, right here in this video. 3,000-year-old human remains reveal a chilling secret about brutal punishments in ancient China. Did you know that some archaeological discoveries, when brought to light, do more than simply retell history? They leave listeners silent for a few moments because of how disturbing they are. A set of human remains that lay undisturbed beneath the soil of China for more than 3,000 years is one such story. There was no gold or silver, no jade or priceless treasures. Instead, what scientists uncovered were traces of a cruel punishment that once existed in ancient society. This story begins at an ancient burial site near the city of Baoji, in Shanxi province, a region closely associated with the Zhou dynasty in Chinese history. There, researchers from Peking University discovered the skeletal remains of a woman. Initial analysis indicated that she died at approximately 30 to 35 years of age. What immediately drew the attention of experts, however, was her right foot, which had been completely severed. At once, numerous hypotheses were proposed. Could this woman have suffered from a serious illness such as diabetes, leprosy, or cancer? Or perhaps she had experienced a severe accident that required amputation? Yet after X-ray examinations and thorough biological analysis, all of these possibilities were ruled out. There were no signs of disease and no evidence of traumatic injury caused by an accident. Gradually, a chilling truth emerged. This may be the earliest known evidence of foot amputation as a form of punishment in Chinese history. This punishment was known as yue, one of the infamous 5 punishments of ancient China. It existed for nearly 1,000 years, until around 200 BCE. Under this penal system, individuals were not only stripped of their freedom, but also subjected to permanent physical mutilation. The 5 punishments included facial tattooing for public humiliation, removal of the nose, foot amputation, castration, and ultimately, execution. Just hearing about it is enough to convey how harsh society was at that time, isn't it? What truly sent chills down the scientists' spines was the research finding that this woman did not die immediately after her foot was amputated. On the contrary, she survived for at least 5 more years following the punishment. Imagine enduring such an ordeal more than 3 millennia ago, without painkillers, without antibiotics, and under extremely primitive medical conditions. Surviving an amputation under those circumstances would have been unimaginably horrific. Of course, survival did not mean a normal life. Those years were likely filled with pain, social stigma, and the lifelong mark of guilt she was forced to bear. According to historical tradition, this punishment system dates back to the Xia dynasty, around the 17th to 15th centuries BCE, and was influenced by punitive practices of ancient Miao tribes. Each punishment was not only meant to penalize the individual, but also to serve as a warning and deterrent to the entire community. Another notable detail, pointed out by researcher Li Nan, concerns the specific rules of the Yue punishment. Lesser offenses resulted in the amputation of the left foot, while more serious crimes led to the amputation of the right foot. Since the woman found in the Shanxi tomb had her right foot severed, scientists believe she must have committed a grave crime under the laws of that era. Previously, in 1999, the remains of another woman with an amputated arm were discovered. However, at that time, archaeologists focused more on the burial artifacts found with the body, causing this crucial clue about ancient punishments to be overlooked. Only with the advancement of modern technology have these seemingly silent remains begun to speak, revealing the darkest chapters of history. At this point, many people may find themselves asking, how could such brutal punishments exist in an ancient society celebrated for its rich culture and philosophy? It is difficult to answer that question. But as you can see, history is clearly not made up of glory alone. It is also filled with scars that humanity has inflicted upon its own kind. A dismembered fetus beneath a church basement and the chilling secret of medieval abortion practices. What if I told you that a tiny set of remains lying silently beneath the basement of an ancient church could reveal a harsh truth that history once deliberately chose to forget? Would you believe it? It sounds hard to believe at first, doesn't it? I felt the same way, skeptical and uncertain. And yet, as unbelievable as it seems, this story truly did happen. In 2009, a powerful 6.3 magnitude earthquake devastated the city of L'Aquila in central Italy, claiming the lives of more than 300 people and causing the collapse of numerous historic structures, including a well-known church. When the church floor cracked open, a previously hidden underground chamber, once used as a burial space, was discovered. Inside were several mummies and ancient skeletal remains. And among the skeletons of adults, archaeologists uncovered something that left them stunned. The remains of a fetus estimated to be about 29 weeks old. At first glance, it might appear to be nothing more than an unfortunate fetus that died centuries ago. But as researchers began a closer examination, things quickly took an unsettling turn. Initial studies determined that the fetus likely died around 1840. However, what truly captured the attention of scientists was not its age, but the condition of the skeleton itself. X-ray imaging revealed that the fetal bones were no longer connected in their natural anatomical positions. The skull had been separated, the spine was no longer intact, and the arms had been detached from the body. In simple terms, this was not a fetus that had died naturally in the womb. There were clear signs of deliberate human intervention. From this evidence, a research team led by Professor Ruggero D'Anastasio of the University of Chieti proposed a controversial yet compelling hypothesis. The fetus may have been the victim of a procedure known as embryotomy, a method of abortion practiced during the Middle Ages and continuing into the 19th century. So what exactly is embryotomy? Put simply, it involved the use of crude tools, sometimes even wooden branches, to dismember a fetus inside the mother's womb so that it could be removed piece by piece. This method was typically employed in cases of obstructed labor or when carrying the fetus to term was believed to threaten the mother's life. What makes this procedure especially horrifying is that it was performed regardless of whether the fetus was alive or already deceased, and without anesthesia or any form of medical safety as we know it today. Just imagining it is enough to send chills down your spine. In an era when medical knowledge was extremely limited, women undergoing such procedures faced unimaginable physical pain, along with an extremely high risk of infection and death. And yet, in many cases, this may have been their only chance of survival. What do you think about that? As for me, I can hardly bring myself to imagine it. What troubled researchers even more was that, after analyzing the pelvic and jaw bones, they were still unable to determine the fetus's sex. The skeleton was simply too underdeveloped and had been severely damaged by the procedure. However, the fact that these remains were buried beneath a church basement suggests something unexpected. The local community at the time still showed a certain degree of respect for the fetus, despite its painful death and the taboo nature of the circumstances surrounding it. Experts have stated that they plan to carefully reassemble all remaining bone fragments and restore them to their correct anatomical positions, as a way of expressing belated respect for this tiny life. an act of humanity carried out nearly 2 centuries later. And really, despite everything, that is something quite meaningful, isn't it? A 1,600-year-old Roman ghost ship lying beneath the feet of beachgoers, unknown to anyone. Have you ever imagined that just beneath a thin layer of sand on a crowded beach where people sunbathe and play every day, there could be a nearly intact 1,600-year-old ancient ship hidden below? It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? Yet this discovery is very real, and it left the entire research community stunned. You see, about 1,600 years ago, when the Roman Empire still dominated the Mediterranean, a ship known as Ses Fontanelles met with disaster while anchored in Palma Bay, off the coast of present-day Spain. Violent waves swallowed the vessel along with all of its cargo, burying it beneath sand and seawater. After that event, Ses Fontanelles disappeared completely, leaving no trace behind, as if it had never existed. Time passed. Century after century, people lived there, swam in the sea, built settlements, and developed tourism along that very shoreline. No one suspected that just about 164 feet from the beach, at a depth of only around 6.5 feet of water, an ancient Roman ship was still sleeping beneath a thin layer of sand. It was not until 2019 that the unbelievable finally happened. During a coastal survey project, researchers unexpectedly detected unusual signs beneath the sandy seabed. Slowly, Ses Fontanelles AC began to emerge. What astonished everyone was not merely the discovery of the ship itself, but its condition. It was almost perfectly preserved, as if it had sunk only yesterday. The vessel measures approximately 39 feet in length, and its wooden hull still clearly retains its structure. On board were hundreds of two-handled amphorae, the distinctive containers of ancient Rome, with rounded bodies and narrow necks, neatly arranged just as they had been before the shipwreck. These amphorae were once used to transport wine, olive oil, and garum, a famous fermented fish sauce of the Roman era. Remarkably, most of the amphorae were found completely intact rather than shattered, as one might expect from an ancient shipwreck. And that was not all. Archaeologists also uncovered astonishingly delicate details: several leather shoes still retaining their shape, a fragment of woven fabric, and various everyday items. Looking at them, one might feel as though the ship had sunk only a few years ago, not that it had lain undisturbed for 16 centuries. So what created this apparent miracle? The answer lies in the sand and the unique marine environment of the area. Fine sand quickly covered the ship, isolating it from strong currents, bacteria, and oxygen, the very elements that normally cause wood and artifacts to decay rapidly. This seemingly simple burial became the perfect protective layer, preserving both the ship and its cargo in an almost original state until today. There is one more detail that has sparked widespread curiosity. No human remains were found on board. This suggests that the crew may have managed to swim safely to shore, or perhaps they were swept away by the waves before the ship fully sank. No one knows for certain, but regardless, when Ses Fontanelles was discovered, it proved to be far more than just a shipwreck. It is a true time capsule, telling the story of trade, daily life, and maritime technology in ancient Rome, exactly the kind of story that archaeologists and lovers of exploration have long been eager to uncover. The mysterious structures of the cloud forest, people in the Andes. Hidden among layers of white clouds, stretched across the steep eastern slopes of the Andes, where only the most daring would ever venture, lies an ancient culture that has awakened after centuries of being forgotten. They are known as the Cloud Forest People, the evocative name given to the Chachapoya, a civilization that once flourished, yet was long obscured by the overwhelming shadow of the Inca Empire. Now, thanks to modern archaeological technology, mysteries once thought to be buried deep beneath dense forest canopies are emerging once again, opening an entirely new chapter in our understanding of the ancient world in this rugged and remote region. This revelation comes from a large-scale survey led by the World Monuments Fund, WMF, in Peru, where archaeologists deployed LiDAR technology, an advanced tool that uses laser pulses to penetrate dense vegetation and capture highly accurate images of the ground below. The survey area lies deep within Rio Abaseo National Park in the Gran Pahatén region, a site previously known only for a handful of scattered ceremonial structures. What LiDAR revealed, however, was astonishing. More than 100 ancient architectural structures hidden along steep mountain slopes, forming a vast, complex, and deliberately planned-built landscape. This was not merely a new discovery, it fundamentally overturned previous interpretations of Gran Pajaten. According to Juan Pablo de la Puente, executive director of WMF Peru, this area was not a single, isolated outlying temple as once believed. Instead, it appears to have been a crucial node within the broader territorial network of the Chachapoya. It may have served as an administrative center, a ceremonial hub, or even a strategic point of communication within the rugged cloud forest, a place where the cloud forest people learn to survive and thrive with extraordinary resilience. LiDAR imagery shows that the Chachapoya designed circular buildings, winding stairways, layered stone walls, and an intricate network of pathways running along the mountain ridges. These structures are not only aesthetically striking, but also reflect a high level of engineering skill in an extremely harsh environment, one marked by heavy rainfall, constant humidity, and the ever-present risk of landslides. Notably, archaeologists have also begun active conservation efforts, reinforcing stone walls, filling structural joints, and using specially mixed clay to stabilize foundations. Researchers hope this approach will serve as a model for other archaeological sites located within similar ecosystems. This discovery not only helps reconstruct a crucial part of pre-Inca civilization in South America, but also compels us to ask deeper questions. Who were the Chachapoya really? How were they able to build entire cities perched among the clouds with such remarkable technical skill and urban planning? And could there be even more yet to be uncovered within the Andean rainforests, where perpetual mist continues to conceal the past? In this journey into the ancient world, the cloud forest people have begun to speak, and perhaps what they left behind on these mist-covered slopes is only the first chapter of an epic story that is still being written. What do you think? Or do you have a different perspective? Feel free to share your thoughts by leaving a comment below this video. A 13-year-old girl who slept for 4,900 years beside a pyramid, an unrevealed mystery of ancient Egypt. Egypt, the land of mysteries, where millennia-old sands have never stopped telling their stories. Yet amid the colossal sphinxes, towering pyramids, and mummies that have become iconic symbols, a newly revealed story has emerged. One that has not only stunned archaeologists, but also left the entire world holding its breath. It is the story of a young girl, only 13 years old, who rested undisturbed for 4,900 years in an ancient tomb beside the Meidum Pyramid, south of modern-day Cairo. She was not a princess, nor was there any evidence to suggest she belonged to the royal family, and yet the manner in which she was buried makes her impossible to overlook. Her body was found in a tightly flexed position, knees drawn close to her chest, as if she were sleeping in a squatting posture, a burial pose never previously recorded in any known ancient Egyptian funerary ritual. She was not placed in a coffin, nor wrapped in linen like traditional mummies. Instead, beside her lay two massive bull skulls, animals considered sacred in ancient Egyptian culture, along with three ancient ceramic vessels. So who was she, to be buried with such solemn and deliberate offerings? That question remains unanswered to this day. Archaeologists have described the find as one of the strangest and most mysterious discoveries of recent years. The tomb was located within a cemetery once enclosed by thick brick walls, now completely collapsed. Scientific tests indicate that the girl died approximately 4,600 years ago, a time frame that closely aligns with the age of the Meidum Pyramid itself. And that very pyramid, near which the girl was laid to rest, is also a structure that continues to puzzle researchers. Originally, the Meidum Pyramid was built as a step pyramid by Pharaoh Huni, who ruled around 2599 BCE. However, his successor, Pharaoh Snefru, did not stop there. He ordered the structure to be transformed into a true pyramid, not only as a symbol of power, but as a major breakthrough in ancient Egyptian architecture. Snefru did not merely improve Meidum, he went on to build several additional pyramids, structures that can be seen as experimental versions leading toward an even greater achievement. And then history would name Khufu, Snefru's son, who carried forward his father's vision by constructing the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a monument that continues to inspire awe to this day. Could it be that, among these monumental achievements, the young girl was also part of a much larger story, A missing piece in the evolutionary journey of Egyptian civilization? Why was she buried there, right beside what was once an architectural laboratory of one of history's greatest pharaohs? Was she the daughter of a gifted architect, or someone who held a special role among the elite? Or perhaps, as one unsettling hypothesis suggests, she was a sacrificial offering, chosen to carry prayers to the gods for the success of a monumental construction still underway? For now, all of these remain only theories. What is certain, however, is that the story of this 13-year-old girl and her resting place has opened a new doorway through which we can re-examine the past. A past where countless unsolved mysteries still lie buried beneath the scorching sands of the desert. And who knows, after this discovery, how many more secrets might still be waiting to be told? Village hidden for thousands of years, revealing a complete Neolithic society in France. Did you know that in a quiet region of northeastern France, history stretching back thousands of years can emerge simply by digging a few layers into the ground? That place is the Marais de Saint-Gond archaeological site, a landscape that silently preserved traces of human life from the Neolithic period, until archaeologists accidentally tapped into this underground current of the past. The discovery began quite by chance. While identifying a trench intended for installing a fence in the commune of Val-des-Marais, located about 85 miles east of Paris, archaeologists noticed signs beneath the soil that were anything but ordinary. From a single narrow trench, a much larger picture gradually came into focus, a long-term settlement dating back thousands of years to the Neolithic era. According to professional assessments, this prehistoric settlement surrounded a hill and covered an area of approximately 2.5 acres. While that may not sound large today, for the Neolithic period it represents a remarkably significant scale. This clearly indicates that the site was not a temporary shelter, but a well-organized village, planned, structured, and home to a stable community. During excavation, archaeologists uncovered a building with an apse-shaped roof, a rare architectural form for this period. The structure was located near a massive refuse pit measuring up to about 66 feet in diameter, along with several nearby wells. This detail alone raises an intriguing question. How did Neolithic people already understand how to organize living areas, manage waste, and exploit water resources in such a systematic way? Researcher Rémi Martineau of the French National Center for Scientific Research, CNRS, who was directly involved in the discovery during the past summer, described the site as the final missing piece archaeologists had been searching for over many years. According to him, this find marks a major turning point, allowing scientists to better understand the economic, social, and territorial organization of Neolithic communities. In other words, the foundations of complex society formed far earlier than we once believed. And the village itself is only part of the story. The entire Marais de Saint-Gond region has left researchers in awe. Across an area of roughly 1,110 acres, archaeologists have identified 15 large flint quarries, a vital raw material for prehistoric life. Beneath the surface lie 135 carefully constructed underground chambers, demonstrating impressive excavation and reinforcement techniques. In addition, the area contains 5 stone-lined alleys, 10 axe polishing stations, and evidence of ancient fields that were deliberately burned before cultivation. This proves that these early communities were not merely hunting and gathering, they were managing land, producing tools, and organizing labor on a communal level. Another smaller yet deeply meaningful discovery was an oval-shaped object made of mother-of-pearl, drilled with 2 holes. Researchers believe it may be a precursor to a button, dating back approximately 3,300 to 3,400 years ago. A seemingly ordinary item, yet one that offers an intimate glimpse into daily life, clothing, and aesthetic sensibilities in ancient times. All of these discoveries are the result of a 20-year research program led by CNRS, involving dozens of scientists and archaeology students from France and abroad. And perhaps most intriguing of all is this: Marais de Saint-Gond has not yet been fully excavated. Do you think that beneath those layers of soil, more secrets are still waiting to be awakened? Ready to continue telling the story of a Neolithic society far more complex than we ever imagined? As for me, I absolutely think so. After all, when it comes to the ancient world, mysteries are everywhere. Astonishing treasure inside a 4,000-year-old ancient Egyptian tomb. There are places where every strike of an archaeologist's tool does not just hit stone, but reaches straight into history. Saqqara, the ancient necropolis near the former capital of Memphis, is one such place. And in early 2024, this familiar site once again made the world hold its breath when a stone tomb more than 4,000 years old was discovered, nearly intact, in the heart of the Egyptian desert. The tomb has been dated to approximately 2649 to 2150 BCE, placing it firmly within the Old Kingdom of Egypt. What makes it especially remarkable is that it does not stand alone. Instead, it lies within a densely packed area filled with tombs and artifacts from multiple historical periods. This clearly shows that Saqqara was not important during just one era, but was regarded as a sacred burial ground for thousands of years, chosen by ancient Egyptians as the final resting place for significant individuals. Nozomu Kawai, the Japanese archaeologist leading the excavation team, emphasized that these discoveries hold immense historical value. This is not merely an ancient tomb, but a kind of living archive, one that helps scientists better understand the daily life, religious beliefs, and artistic traditions of ancient Egypt. And indeed, what was found inside has left everyone in awe. During the excavation, the international research team uncovered ancient architectural features, a tomb preserved in near-perfect condition, and a remarkable collection of finely crafted artifacts. Most striking of all were the remains of an individual buried with a decorative mask adorned with vivid colors. Even after thousands of years, the pigments remain clearly visible, testament to the extraordinary craftsmanship, pigment-making techniques, and artistic vision of ancient Egyptian artisans. Simply looking at the mask is enough to suggest that the person buried beneath it was far from ordinary. The discoveries did not stop there. Archaeologists also uncovered the resting place of a child dating back to the Second Dynasty, approximately 2890 to 2686 BCE. This find is particularly significant, as child burials from such an early period are extremely rare. It offers a new perspective on how ancient Egyptians treated children after death, and on their beliefs about the afterlife. Could it be that even the youngest lives were carefully prepared for the journey into eternity? In addition, at another ancient tomb within the Saqqara complex, researchers discovered a coffin from the 18th dynasty, dating to 1550 to 1295 BCE. Inside the coffin was an alabaster stone vessel, preserved in nearly flawless condition. After more than 3,000 years, its surface remains smooth and its contours sharply defined, clear evidence of the refined craftsmanship and exceptional preservation techniques mastered by ancient Egyptians. As you may know, Saqqara itself is already famous as a vast necropolis belonging to ancient Memphis and has been recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The area contains more than a dozen pyramids, the most prominent being the Step Pyramid of Djoser, the first step pyramid in human history. This groundbreaking structure laid the foundation for the development of the true pyramidal forms that would follow. Surrounding Saqqara are other major pyramid complexes at Abu Sur, Dashur, and Abu Ruwaish, together forming a vast archaeological landscape layered with history. In recent years, the Egyptian government has continued to announce new archaeological discoveries, not only to shed light on the past, but also to capture global attention. Each tomb that is opened, each artifact brought into the light, makes the story of ancient Egyptian civilization more vivid than ever. And Saqqara, with its treasures still sleeping beneath the sand, has clearly not told its full story yet. Beneath those scorching desert sands, many secrets are surely still waiting to be awakened, ready to continue telling the glorious story of ancient Egypt. A 2,500-year-old skeleton in a bog that stunned experts. When we think of bogs, most of us imagine wild vegetation, dark and desolate landscapes, places that feel eerie, cold, and unsettling. And honestly, that image isn't wrong. But in archaeology, bogs are something else entirely. They are like history's own time capsules, capable of preserving stories that can still speak to us today. A striking example came in October 2023, when human bone fragments were discovered deep beneath the dense black peat of the Belaghy Bog in Northern Ireland. The remains were first found by the Police Service of Northern Ireland, PSNY. At first glance, everything pointed to a modern crime, perhaps a body deliberately hidden in a remote bog. But history has a way of playing tricks on us. As the investigation continued and specialists examined the remains more closely, the story took a completely different turn. Experts soon confirmed that this was not a victim of the 21st century, but a person who had died approximately 2,500 years ago. In other words, when this individual passed away, the idea of England as a nation had not even begun to form. And yet, this ancient individual had nearly been classified as part of a modern criminal case, an astonishing twist of fate. What truly amazed scientists was the extraordinary level of preservation. Thanks to the unique environment of peat bogs, low oxygen levels, high acidity, and stable temperatures, parts of the body had survived in remarkable condition. Skin tissue, fingernails from the left hand, toenails, and even one kidney were found to be nearly intact. Just imagine that for a moment. Parts of a human body surviving for thousands of years, preserved by nothing more than mud and peat. Of course, not everything was perfectly preserved. The skull was missing and the bones were scattered rather than arranged anatomically. But modern science is rarely defeated so easily. Through advanced analysis, experts determined that the remains belonged to a male, and the most heartbreaking detail of all is his age at death. He was only between 13 and 17 years old. A prehistoric teenager, someone who never had the chance to live a full life, had unknowingly become a silent witness to history. Even more remarkably, this marked the first time in Northern Ireland that scientists used radiocarbon dating to determine the time of death for bog remains. The analysis was carried out at the 14 Chrono Centre at Queen's University, Belfast. The results showed that the individual died between 2,000 and 2,500 years ago, perfectly aligning with other archaeological evidence. History, science, and the bog itself had finally reached the same conclusion. The investigation didn't stop there. Researchers also used ground-penetrating radar to survey the surrounding area. The scans revealed that the remains were located at a depth of about 3.3 feet below the current surface, exactly what scientists would expect after thousands of years of accumulated peat and sediment. Notably, the bones were found clustered within a mass of fossilized plant material. This led researchers to hypothesize that the boy may have been buried in an ancient grassland, or possibly swept into the bog during a prehistoric flood. Today, the remains are being carefully preserved in cooperation with the National Museums Northern Ireland. Researchers are not only seeking to determine the exact cause of death, but also hope to uncover deeper insights into the society, culture, and living conditions of people in Northern Ireland thousands of years ago. An unnamed teenager, without a recorded identity or personal story, has become a key to unlocking a distant chapter of human history. So what do you think? Was this the result of an ancient burial ritual or simply a tragic accident of nature? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. The oldest royal skeleton in British history. You may have heard mysterious stories about human remains that were lost for centuries, and one of the most remarkable discoveries in recent years is the identification of what may be the oldest skeletal remains of the British royal family. However, this story is far more than a routine archaeological excavation. It is filled with historical secrets and long-missing pieces of the royal narrative that have never been fully revealed. So why is this set of remains so important? And could it truly belong to one of England's earliest queens, Queen Edgith? The story began when a team of archaeologists excavated an ancient coffin inside Magdeburg Cathedral in southern Germany. Inside the coffin, they discovered well-preserved skeletal remains of a woman estimated to have died between the ages of 30 and 40. Most striking of all, they also found a small tablet engraved with the name Edith. If you're not familiar with the name, Edith is the Old English form of Eadgyth, who was the sister of King Athelstan and the granddaughter of Alfred the Great, the king widely regarded as the founder of the Kingdom of England. But how can we be sure that these remains truly belong to Queen Edgith? Could this simply be a coincidence? Historically, Queen Edgith was an exceptionally important figure in early English history. She lived in the 10th century and was part of the very first royal family that played a decisive role in shaping what would eventually become modern England. However, in 1510, her remains were reportedly lost when they were moved to another burial site. To honor her memory, a monument was later erected inside Magdeburg Cathedral. Yet for more than 500 years, the true fate of her remains remained an unresolved mystery. Now, with the discovery of this skeleton inside the ancient coffin, archaeologists have strong reasons to believe they may have finally found Queen Edgith. While this identification remains a hypothesis, part of the puzzle is beginning to come into focus. The woman's estimated age at death and the engraved name Edith make the possibility increasingly compelling. Still, nothing can be confirmed with certainty until further scientific testing is completed. At present, the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom is conducting a series of detailed analyses on the bones to determine whether the remains belong to a member of the British royal family. Specifically, researchers are examining isotopic signatures within the skeleton and comparing them with isotopic data from regions where Queen Edith is known to have lived, such as Wessex and Mercia. This is a critical step in confirming the identity of the remains, and if the results are positive, it would represent an archaeological discovery of immense historical value. Professor Mark Horton, one of the leading members of the research team, explained, "We know that the remains of early British royals were often moved multiple times. However, we are hopeful that the isotopic evidence from these bones will match the regions where Queen Edith once lived." He added that if this identification is confirmed, it would rank among the most significant archaeological discoveries of recent years. So the question remains, are these truly the remains of Queen Edith, or is this simply a remarkable coincidence in the long and complex history of the British monarchy? Regardless of the final outcome, the discovery has already opened a new door, allowing us to better understand the missing pieces of England's early royal past. And once the scientific examinations are complete, we may uncover not only a historical secret, but also an inspiring story of resilience, memory, and respect for the figures who helped lay the foundations of a nation. 3,800-year-old giant human remains discovered in Azerbaijan. Amid the windswept Saqqara plain, where the land of Azerbaijan meets Georgia and Armenia, there lies an unassuming earthen mound that local residents casually refer to as a kurgan. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an old hill forgotten by time. But with just one shovel strike from archaeologists, history suddenly rises up, standing nearly 6 feet 6 inches tall. When the excavation began, no one expected that beneath layers of silent soil undisturbed for millennia lay a grave dating back approximately 3,800 years. Even more astonishing was the identity of its occupant, a man who stood about 6 feet 6 inches tall, an extraordinary height for the Bronze Age, when the average human stature was far shorter than it is today. In the ancient world, this man would have truly appeared to be a giant. The grave was discovered within the Kashikchada Historical and Cultural Reserve, and its scale immediately caught archaeologists by surprise. The kurgan measures roughly 92 feet in diameter and rises over 6.5 feet high. It is clearly divided into 3 distinct sections by stone walls. The first section contains the remains of the deceased along with numerous grave goods. The second holds only pottery, while the third is completely empty, as if reserved for something intangible, something the living were never meant to touch. This division was not accidental. Researchers believe it reflects a deeply rooted belief in the afterlife. For these ancient people, death may not have been an end, but rather a doorway into another realm, one that required careful preparation, from weapons to food. The body of this giant was found in a partially flexed position, his hand still tightly gripping a bronze spearhead. This single detail evokes the image of a warrior who never relinquished his weapon, even in death. Adding to this impression, multiple bronze ornaments were discovered around his ankles, indicating that this man held a high status within his society. Not just anyone would be buried with weapons, jewelry, and such elaborate funeral rites. One particularly chilling detail was the presence of ceramic vessels containing cooked animal bones. This suggests that people at the time believed sustenance was necessary even in the afterlife. A warrior, after all, could not be allowed to go hungry, even beyond death. These seemingly small details reveal an entire belief system and a profound perspective on life and death held by people nearly 4,000 years ago. Based on the evidence, archaeologists speculate that the man buried here was not an ordinary warrior, but likely a leader, possibly even a military commander. His exceptional height, distinctive weapons, and elaborate burial rituals all combine to form the portrait of someone who commanded respect, both in life and long after his death. And what makes this discovery even more remarkable is that the kurgan lay undisturbed for thousands of years amid the endlessly blowing winds of the plain, as if guarding its own secret, waiting patiently for modern humans to listen. When the soil was finally removed, it was not only a giant who emerged into the light, but an entire fragment of ancient history revived, reminding us that the past is sometimes far greater than we ever imagined. 2,000-year-old jade and gold inlaid human remains of two saints in Germany. Hidden in the tranquil countryside of Germany near the bustling city of Munich stands Fürstenfeld Church, a magnificent Baroque architectural masterpiece that also safeguards a sacred, mysterious, and deeply haunting secret: the skeletal remains of Saint Hyacinth of Caesarea and Saint Clemens, two revered Christian martyrs. Enclosed within historic glass reliquaries, these skeletons are not merely remnants of the past. They are powerful witnesses to unwavering faith and tragic devotion, a faith for which both saints ultimately gave their lives. Saint Hyacinth, a name unfamiliar to many today, embodies a story that moves all who encounter it. He died in 108 AD at just 12 years old, an age when children today are still sitting in school classrooms. According to legend, the young Hyacinth was imprisoned and tortured in Rome for refusing to worship the gods of ancient Rome. Even when faced with death, he would not renounce his Christian faith. When forced to eat meat, considered forbidden within Christianity at the time, Hyacinth chose to starve himself, ultimately dying of hunger while remaining completely loyal to God. What makes his remains especially striking is the crown placed upon his skull and the lower jaw inlaid with precious stones, symbolizing both nobility and the extraordinary sacrifice of a saint who was still a child. Beside Saint Hyacinth rests the skeleton of Saint Clemens, an equally formidable historical figure. He died in Rome in 95 AD, executed by beheading, a brutal punishment imposed by the Roman Empire on those who steadfastly followed Christianity. Though his violent death occurred nearly 2 millennia ago, the remains of Saint Clemens have been carefully preserved within the church as a sacred relic, reminding humanity of the cost of religious freedom and the unbreakable strength of faith. Fürstenfeld Church itself, the guardian of these two relics, holds not only historical and religious significance, but is also tied to a powerful story of atonement. The church was commissioned in the mid-13th century by Louis II, Duke of Bavaria, under orders from Pope Alexander IV, as an act of repentance for the Duke's murder of his first wife. From the foundation of sin arose a place of reverence and devotion, serving as a reminder that light can emerge from darkness and that faith has the power to redeem even the most flawed souls. Today, visitors who step inside Fürstenfeld Church are not only awed by its magnificent architecture, but also enveloped by a profound sense of sanctity. Within its walls, the two skeletons silently continue to tell their stories of an age marked by violence, faith, and sacrifice. These are not merely stories of the past, but enduring reminders for the present that sometimes the most precious thing a human being can preserve is faith itself. Dear friends, the ancient world is always filled with fascinating wonders. It is not only about valuable artifacts being uncovered, but also about the long and complex process of history that lies behind them, waiting for us to dig deeper and discover. What do you think about today's topic? Which discovery impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming fascinating discoveries. For now, thank you for watching, and see you next time.